Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining all of us here today. I'm Julie Roginski here with Tara Setmayer, who's drinking an awesome kitty cup. Something's in there. Michelle Kinney, who's getting ready for the U.S. Open in a few months with her baseball
Apparently,
hat.
yes.
JoJo is going to join us in a little bit. She is at a softball game with her daughter, but she is going to join us just as soon as she can. Happy Saturday, guys.
Hello.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to everybody on the chat. I love that. I love that all these people come and join us every Saturday. Can we actually start with something that's not political?
Yeah, let's do it.
That I think we have all kind of been talking about on our internal chat, but I think there's some disagreement. Can we talk a little bit about the Bill Belichick situation with his very young girlfriend, Jordan? I think her last name is Hudson. I might be wrong about that. Because I think there's some disagreement here, at least with me and the rest of you.
Yeah.
So why don't you guys give what I think is the standard analysis of the situation, and then I will give you my 2 cents.
Go ahead, Michelle. You go first.
Well, listen, I'm obviously not a Patriots fan, so we can start there. But Bill Belichick, I also think, is an asshole. So that's also not helpful for his case. But he has a girlfriend who's how many years younger than him? Like 40?
Yeah, she's 24.
Yeah.
She's 24 and he's what, like 60?
73.
Holy shit.
Yeah, she's dating her grandfather.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's very clear what's going on here. I mean, you know, she's dating him for money. I mean, unless you got some weird grandpa thing, like I don't know.
Well,
I think it's weird, and I think on his part it is like super. I'm sorry, I just think it's a little predatory to be a 70-something-year-old man and going after somebody who went to the prom like 3 years ago. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, ew.
Somebody showed a picture of her in 2000, I guess, 2001, and she was an infant in a baby blanket, and him.
Well, I'm like, here's my completely unpopular opinion.
Okay.
So he's like 73, right? He doesn't have dementia from what we can tell.
Not well, yeah.
He is a complete asshole. Sorry, I know there's some Patriot fans on this chat, but even Tom Brady kind of would say that this is not an easy guy to get along with. And so he's not somebody who's going to be steamrolled. Like nobody's taking advantage of grandpa here because he's an adult.
Yeah.
He is in his right mind, or is as much in his right mind as he ever was. Whether he ever was or not is a different story. And he is do whatever, good for him that he was able to snag a 23, 24-year-old. And it's hard to take advantage of grandpa if grandpa is not in a nursing home and has dementia, right? Which he doesn't. So he's getting whatever he's getting out of it. Maybe she's, I don't know. Maybe she's a Mensa member. Who knows, right? She's obviously very attractive.
He's not.
Okay. But maybe she is. We don't know. Maybe he's not into Mensa members. Maybe he's into hot 23-year-old women, and that's okay. And she's well, he must be, right? What else is he doing with her? And whatever she's like, he's not. This is like everybody's sitting there being like, she's taking advantage of him. Poor Bill Belichick.
Oh, I don't think so. I think it's the other way around. I mean, she's there obviously for the security, the money, the proximity to fame and football players and all that stuff, right? But I think there's also like he's an old man and he's got some young hot thing like crawling all over him. And I think that, I don't know. I think the power dynamic there is not one that
who's the more powerful person here? I guess that's my question.
Belichick, for sure. I think it's weird that he wants to be all up on like a 20-something-year-old. I just think it's weird.
But she's not, like, everybody thought that she was bossing him around at that.
Yeah, but I just think that's
the part that I had like a problem with, because everybody's like, look at her, she's taking advantage of Bill Belichick, she's jumping into that CBS.
No, I think that's more just like embarrassing than anything else.
Yeah.
So I have thoughts about this on a lot of levels. First of all, I find it to be emotionally dysfunctional for a 20-something-year-old woman to want to fuck her grandfather. Okay. Disgusting to me. And there's obviously daddy issues. And,
well, yeah, that's.
And then I also have an issue with men who are attracted to women who could be their granddaughters. There's something fundamentally wrong with that, in my opinion. Others listen. My husband and I had this conversation just now on our way back from going to a yard sale, because Michelle knows that I am an antiquer and I love estate sales. And this morning we got up to go to this community yard sale a couple miles down the street, and I bought.
You're already back? Wait, you already did something this morning? It's 10 a.m.
Yes, I'm already back. Yes.
I'm impressed. I am honestly impressed.
We got some New York Giants players cards and Carl Banks. There's a Carl Banks card in it.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
I'm so excited. We got it for $2. We got this awesome blade made from Germany, which is really cool. And I got a cool thing for Rafi, for the kitty, who will be around somewhere, which is why I have my kitty mug today. But we got him a really cool bed and a cool brush. Marcel's actually brushing him right now with the cool brush, and he's like on his back. He loves it. Anyway, so on our way back from the yard sale, we were talking about this because it came up on the radio. And I said, "What do you think, Marcel?" And he goes, "No, it's disgusting." He's like, "But I don't know why anyone cares. Why does anybody care? Like, does this affect our lives any? Like, who cares?"
Well, I think it's
a national discussion because
it's like, yeah.
I think what I think it does, it perpetuates this idea of I don't know, like I don't exactly know how to put it into words.
Let's take the sexual attraction part out of it, because that's gross enough.
Yeah.
But like, what do you have in common at 24 years old with a 73-year-old man that you would be in a romantic relationship with? I'm sorry. The whole thing is sus. The whole thing. So there's just, and then like, you've got, she's like managing his business interest or something, right? Isn't she managing like his real estate portfolio or something? Yeah, she's into something. Charles Barkley was like, he was on air talking about like, yeah, I think I'm gonna have a conversation with Bill Belichick. Like, what are you doing, dude? And it's just, I don't know, all of it is just cringe to me. But I just don't, whether he was a famous person or not, I just have an issue with women who obviously have something broken in them, that they're searching for companionship with a man old enough to be their grandfather in a sexual relationship, and then the reverse. I just think there's something wrong with that.
I gotta say again, he's not a senile old guy,
no.
Like whatever she's doing for him.
Oh, we know what she's doing for him.
She's over 21, barely, but she is over 21.
That's my husband's argument. He just said the same thing. They're consenting adults. Who cares? I'm like,
I don't have a problem with it. God bless.
I think for me, it has more to do with the devaluation of older women, and how like women in general are tossed aside once you are over a certain age, and like old, powerful, rich men only want like little young women who don't challenge them and don't say much, and just kind of like that. Listen, and also, like, again, like I said, she was at the prom how many years ago?
I know.
That's the other part of this that really bothers me. Is there's a predatory part of this that I don't, it's not, like, we have how many states in this country that allow child marriage for like 9-year-olds to marry grown men? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. There's just something about it that
Allison Fenton writes, "Hey, Allison, from New Jersey, writing in, thinking about an example of the reverse scenario, 73-year-old female celebrity, Cher. Isn't Cher dating some really young guy? Madonna with like every boyfriend she's ever had."
And I feel the same way. I mean, women, some people will be like, well, good for her, sister.
I love somebody telling me I'm looking too deep into this. No, I'm not actually, but thanks. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. I mean, there's a much bigger societal discussion here about this, which is why we're talking about it now. I have an issue with that too. I mean, with the guy and Cher, I think Cher, he was like in his 20s also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She says she's happier than she's ever been.
I mean, I bet she is. I mean, again, she's 70 something years old, and whoever her plastic surgeon is.
Listen, you're not dead, right? It's fine. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about the older man and a young woman.
Right, exactly. I just feel like, I don't know. When you have that much of a difference in life experience and what you have in common, and then I don't know. It's
Have you
weird.
guys seen Best in Show, the Christopher Guest movie
Oh,
about
yeah,
the dog
course.
shows? Okay, right.
Yeah.
Well, like Jennifer Coolidge's character is like with that super old man who like can't even talk. She's like, we have so much in common.
Yes.
We love soup, and we just love soup. It's like it's
Yeah,
all
that is
I
an
can think
amazing
of.
Jennifer Coolidge. Who knew they had this incredible Jennifer Coolidge?
Well, remember she played the character, what's it, Stifler's mom.
of course she was still
Which she was only like supposed to be 38 years old.
Right. She
Yeah.
was just older,
High,
but-
which again is like,
Even
see
then-
what I'm saying about like she's like supposed to be this old lady. She was only 38. I just, you know what I'm saying? There's something
No.
like
I
I
know.
don't know.
Can I just
Well-
say, just a total other aside that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I'm eating a freshly baked banana nut muffin that I bought from the Boy Scouts that had a little table at this community yard sale because I wanted to support the Boy Scouts. And my husband, he was a Boy Scout when he was younger, an Eagle Scout or something. And he was like, oh, we got to support them. I'm like, all right, we'll give them a little $4 for some cookies and a banana nut muffin. It's hit or miss, but this is actually a pretty good banana nut muffin. from the
Wait,
Boy
you kind of glossed over the fact that your husband was an Eagle. It's not like a Boy Scout or an Eagle Scout, whatever. Eagle Scouts, like,
Yeah, that's like legit. You're
Yeah.
very into things.
Yeah.
Oh
he
yeah.
did.
Leonardo DiCaprio is another one. Yes.
I was
Thank
a Girl
you.
Scout. I was a Girl Scout. I only made it to
I was
Brownies,
too.
though.
I
I went
was
to
a
Girl Scout camp. I
I went
loved
to-
it.
I was
I
in
grew-
Brownies and Girl Scouts. Yeah.
I grew up in the mean streets of the Bronx. We did not have Girl Scouts. If somebody knocked on your door, you would not be opening it up for anybody.
Speaking of the Bronx,
I did. I
last
lived in the
night-
Bronx. I lived
so
in the
last-
Bronx till I was like 13. Yeah.
oh my God. Well, the Bronx are awesome. It's right over the bridge from Jersey where I grew
Oh,
up. And last night, so we had a very exciting Friday night. I was watching Italian game shows in Italian to help me, practice every once in a while. So I was watching it very intently. There's a very interesting Italian game show where they
Yeah.
have to like match words to things. You have to figure out what it is, and they bet money on it. It's anyway. So I was watching that, and then I decided to flip over to PBS since the Trump administration is trying to once again.
They're trying to kill Elmo.
Right, they're trying to kill Elmo and PBS and NPR and all that. And so I was watching Channel 13, PBS, which is what I grew up on. You too,
Yeah.
Julie, in Jersey. It's a New York PBS station. And they had a documentary about Tito Puente and Latin jazz artists and how, Latin jazz percussionists and how,
Yeah.
Tito Puente is the godfather. And there's this festival in the Bronx that happens every year called the Old Timers Festival on 111th Street.
That's not
And
the Bronx.
It's
100
technically
no.
not the Bronx, I know, but
Yeah.
it was like they were like bringing because the Bronx is a large Latin population, and then it's like the 110th Street Old Timers Festival, and they all come down and they play, and it's a lot of the old Latin jazz and salsa merengue artists, and it was fantastic to watch because just first of all to see Tito Puente back in the heyday, footage of him, and then some of the band members of his band were still alive. And they still play, and they were saying times and how the artists today don't learn the craft the same way that back then, because it's all about the singer. Where back then, it was all about
Sorry,
the
excuse me.
bless you,
Sorry.
bless you. It was all back then. It was all about the band, and today it's all about the singer, and then the musicians are second. So it was fantastic. That was how I spent Friday night.
There's no rock and roll anymore, right? Like, is
No.
there, like
Well,
that's just dead,
yes.
which is kind of weird. It's all like pop and
Yeah.
we know-
Bless you. Thank you to everyone blessing me. I feel so blessed.
You're so blessed, Michelle. Speaking of PBS, how like this asshole, sorry, Dad, is. By the way, I told my dad that we are gonna have T-shirts made up that says "Sorry, Julie's dad," and he's like, "Stop making up T-shirts. Stop cursing. You don't need to
Oh
do."
my gosh, that's funny.
Which is so typical of my dad that it's like
That makes it even funnier.
you girls. I don't
And
understand.
you have to say, I think what we do is we say, right, sorry, Julie's dad, and then like put somewhere on your bottom, like he doesn't approve.
Yeah, this is not Julie's dad.
Just a
Julie's dad does
photograph
not
of Julie's
approve.
dad, very disapproving.
That's
Yeah.
so funny.
But anyway, so this asshole is cutting funding from PBS and NPR, which is like a minuscule. It's like
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what, like
But-
a less than 1% out of the annual budget. It's
Like
so
percent. less than like
Republicans have been
1.1.
doing this though for years.
Yeah,
But
it's
wait,
right.
but wait. Okay, if you're going to do that, fine. You want to save some money, if that's your thing. But you're throwing yourself a military parade.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
It's going to cost, and they said what it's going to cost, and it's going to be exponentially more than the budget of both PBS and NPR combined for one stupid day.
that's the thing. They don't care. They
Not
don't
to mention,
care.
I am mayor. If I'm Muriel Bowser, she's still the mayor of DC. I think.
Yeah,
she is.
she is.
If I'm Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington DC, the money out of my budget, because they're not reimbursing her for all the roads that are going to have to
Oh,
be
the damage. Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason it got
rolling down.
canceled last time is because they were working into the budget all of the damage that was going to be done to the roads and stuff.
Yep.
And they were like, with that, there was so much pushback, and they were like, okay, we're not going to do it. And also,
that was the excuse. There were people inside the
well,
Pentagon
right.
who knew better, that we don't do military parades like Putin and Kim Jong-un do. And,
Right.
We don't do that in America.
Right.
So they used the cost and the destruction to the roads as the public-facing excuse, but people inside the Pentagon were horrified.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful.
These people don't exist this time. So
it's so embarrassing. Well, and also, I just want to just touch on PBS here for a second, because I think of how many childhood memories and how I feel like I'm immediately catapulted into my childhood anytime I hear the Reading Rainbow theme song, or I watched. I mean, even just now, if PBS is on or Sesame Street comes on, I'll sit and watch it for a half an hour just because it makes me so happy. And I mean, I watched all the Muppet stuff growing up. I mean, I watched 3, 2, 1 Contact. I don't know if you guys remember that.
4, 5, 6, 7,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10.
3, 2, 1 Contact.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. Anyways, so I love PBS, NPR now too. I mean, I send them $5 a month or whatever, just because but these are the information and news and educational outlets that this country needs. They are publicly funded resources for all of us, and they're not corporate entities in which they have to rely on advertisers, or it's not Fox News that has an agenda. It is something that we can always rely on, and it's just
and PBS NewsHour, I think, is the single best news delivery.
And Mr. Rogers, yes, Mr. Rogers.
The clip going around, right, of Mr. Rogers from when he testified back.
Oh yeah, it always makes the rounds every time this comes up, and he's like, what do I do with the hurt inside? Anyways, keep going.
Are there any parents in this chat? If you ever had to sit through your children watching Caillou, which is on PBS, let me know, because I swear to God, if there's one way to get me to defund PBS, it's that stupid cartoon. It's about this bratty Canadian kid who's bald for some reason, and who's completely rude to his parents. And
is it a cartoon or is it
a cartoon? And the kid is
a Canadian kid is rude.
How does that work?
It's a bald Canadian kid. So first of all, does he have alopecia? Does he have cancer? Why is he bald? He's 4. That's 1. 2, he's the rudest kid. And all these 4-year-olds, including my son, who was 3 or 4 when he was watching him, are watching him gobbling this up. And I'm like, you're teaching your kids to be all, it's the most Becky told Caillou. Yes. Yes. Caillou is the worst. And if there's one reason to get you to defund PBS, is to get Caillou off there. Yeah. Otherwise, PBS cartoons for kids are the best. And
So I always joke, Michelle and I, when we watch anything arts related, or when we're talking about award shows or performances, of course, our chat, we're burning it up, going back and forth, because I joke, because my mom and I are like this too. We're like the old men Muppets in the balcony.
Yeah.
I'm like, which one is Statler and which one is Waldorf? I'm not sure who's who.
We are though. We
are so those guys. We are the grumpy, the curmudgeon.
We're the hecklers. We're the hecklers up in the balcony.
Oh, wasn't it CBS? Wasn't the Muppet Show on CBS? I felt like it jumped off.
I don't.
It did, because it came on after 60 Minutes.
Yep.
Yeah,
because that's before I appreciated 60 Minutes, right? When I was a little kid, I used to be like, okay, and it used to be after Andy, what's his name, would go off, right? His little at the end, what was his name?
Andy Rooney.
Yeah, and he would do his rant at the end, and then I was like, okay, great. And then you see the little tick 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 tick, and it's like time for the Muppets.
Yeah.
So I have on my I had my record player back here, and I have all my vinyl collection under it, and I have 2 vinyl records of the Muppet Show,
Yes.
volume 1 and 2, and I mean, again, like, you couldn't make the Muppet Show now. It's like the Carol Burnett Show. Like, it would be too expensive. No one would ever make that show now. But again, it was like this special,
Oh,
very
it's
special
so
thing. And all the, what's that?
And subversive.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You wouldn't be able to do Pee Wee Herman now. You wouldn't be able to do.
Oh God, that's another show. I watched that religiously.
Oh my God,
are you Pee Wee Herman?
Pee Wee Herman. I was obsessed with Pee Wee Herman and obsessed with Pee Wee Herman. And then when the movie came out, obsessed.
Oh yeah.
Obsessed.
The basement of the Alamo.
Line. I thought it was the funniest shit ever. One of my best friends, we're still close to this day. His name is David Bauer, Paramus, New Jersey. Shout out to my good friend David. We walked to school together at like 6 years old, first grade. We are still friends to this day. And his beautiful wife Eliza and their wonderful daughters. He's a girl dad and a teacher, like his parents. Anyway, we used to walk to school singing all of the songs. We would make fun of the Pee Wee Herman stuff and like recite the lines. We were obsessed. That and the Muppet Show. We used to sing Rainbow Connection all the time. Like, we were obsessed. But there's a Pee Wee Herman documentary.
Who likes
Caillou? It's coming out soon.
Nobody loves Caillou. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that I just saw a clip, a preview of this documentary about Paul Reubens and Pee Wee Herman and his life. It's coming out, I think, this month on HBO, I believe.
Was Captain Kangaroo on PBS? Was it?
I think so. I wasn't into Captain.
Wasn't that before our time, Captain Kangaroo? Or is
not
that
really? I mean,
for you guys, slightly. I think for
us,
me, it was. I remember watching it in syndication.
Yeah, I remember watching it live. I think. And who are the hippie chicks on the big swing with the braids? Remember they used to. Oh my God, they were like hippies. If you're watching, please put it in the chat. Or someone, do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh my God, they were like 2 hippie chicks, and they used to good time. Oh, they used to play guitar, acoustic, and they would sing in harmony. Oh,
I don't know this. I don't know this.
Like
Romper Room, yes, Romper Room. I see Sally.
You guys want to hear something funny? So I came to this country when I was 7, so I missed the Sesame Street.
Oh yeah, you probably.
So I picked all that up as a mom with my son, who was also strangely not into Sesame Street. He was into Caillou, who was a bad boy. But so when we first came here, it was May, and like, what are you going to do in the summer when you don't speak a word of English, but turn on the TV and just watch it? So I learned English watching reruns of Dallas.
Oh my gosh.
That is hilarious.
So I literally was like the only kid in 2nd or 3rd grade. It was like the goddamn oil baron's ball. Like, I knew all about and I was so into
not in Dallas. I mean, in Dynasty.
So into Dallas. My mom and I both learned English watching Dallas. Like, talk
Who
about
JR?
Who shot JR?
I think that was the year we came here. I think I came right at the
amazing. Yes, and Barney was on PBS.
Yeah. And so, but Barney was like,
was after my time. Yeah.
But I had a friend.
Magic Garden, Lori Lasanti. Thank you. Magic Garden. That was the show I'm talking about with the hippie chicks.
Casual observer wants to know, did you have an accent, Julie?
You know what? I don't think I did. I mean, I probably did in the beginning, but then, you're a little kid, it kind of goes away. But it's really interesting because I did a podcast yesterday with Olga Lautman, who I do my Thursday podcast with, and Lev Parnas, thank you, who was Donald Trump's fixer before he turned on Donald Trump. Anyway, the two of them came here even when they were younger. She came here almost at birth, and he came here when he was 4. But they grew up in Brighton Beach in Brooklyn, which is this really closed off Russian community, and they still both kind of have a intonation that's not quite. And they said to me that I don't. Because my parents did, I think, the right thing and moved to the Bronx. They did not want to be among Russians. So that's why I didn't have an accent. But
that makes sense. It's interesting. My stepdad is from Yugoslavia. He's from Croatia. And he came here in the 60s. I guess I think he was 12 when he came. and grew up in Bergen County, next town over in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. And he's now almost 70. He's still like the does and the T's, like every once in a while, it still comes out. Like he doesn't really have an accent except like every once in a while. Some of these things still come out. Yeah.
I just want to address this for our Canadian viewers in the chat today. I also watched Mr. Dress Up because I grew up on the Canadian border, 15 miles from Canada. So we got CTV, CBC, CHOH. So I grew up watching all of Canadian TV as well. And so for Canada, like their version of Mr. Rogers was Mr. Dress Up.
Wow.
And he had, well, I've told you about this, but Tara, and then you were like, excuse me, what? He has the two puppets, Finnegan and Casey. And then Mr. Dress Up would have this chest full of costumes, and they tried the costumes on, but it was called the Tickle Trunk.
What?
That was my reaction. That's what I forgot. That was the name.
A guy named Mr. Dress Up who had a tickle trunk.
That's what I said. I'm sorry.
All right. I'm not a helicopter mom by any stretch of the imagination. I'm much more free range, but that shit's not happening in my house.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So I'm taking a screenshot here, and I'm gonna upload.
Oh God.
I'm just going to upload a picture. Yeah.
Fraggle Rock. Time for Fraggle Rock.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I watched that religiously.
Fraggle Rock was the best. That still comes on sometimes somewhere. I don't know where.
I have the dolls. I have the Fraggle Rock dolls.
Oh, God. They were the best.
It's in my closet here in New York.
We had such better things than the newer kids. The newer kids.
Yeah, there's Mr. Dress Up. There's Mr. Dress Up.
Has never been busted for anything. Are you telling me that Mr. Dress Up survived?
No. Let me see if any of our
First of all,
Canadian friends
clearly was a gay man because
I mean, I'm assuming
that's okay, but
there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's fabulous. But like, look at his gloves. I mean, come on, he was fabulous then. But you can't
so funny, so
That's
funny.
Weird.
Let me see. The Electric Company, Zoom were my favorites.
Yeah,
Captain Kangaroo.
11, 12.
You can't do that on television. Was that Canadian? Was it? You can't do that on television?
Canadian?
I don't know.
You can't do I remember watching it.
Yeah, me too.
I thought, was it empty? No.
Oh, Sherry Lewis. Oh, she died very tragically, didn't she?
Oh, the lamb chop.
Oh, lamb chop. Okay, so there was an article written very recently about lamb chop dolls and for dogs. Have you guys heard about this? And like how all these dogs are obsessed with the lamb chop dolls, and like all these pet stores cannot keep them in stock because dogs are obsessed with them.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm gonna find it. My friend Craig told me about this because he has a Bernedoodle who is obsessed with his lamb chop, and they have to just keep buying more lamb chops because he destroys them and then has to get
my dog.
Okay, Nickelodeon was you can't do that on television. Yes.
Also Double Dare on Nickelodeon. Which
please.
And the trivia questions were so easy, and I was like, oh my God, you people, how do you not know these? And then I realized I was quite the nerd.
Well, and also I don't know if this was more my time than yours, but Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Yes. I watched that religiously.
Way after my time.
I love that game because again, it was a trivia game, and I was with geography. It's funny you bring this up. At the little yard sale that we were just at, it was in like the parking lot of this HOA. So they had all these different these different tables, and one of the tables had all of these, volumes of National Geographic magazines. And when I was a kid, a friend of our family got me a National Geographic subscription because we couldn't afford it. That was like fancy, you know what I mean? And so we couldn't afford it. And it was a gift because he knew I was like into cool things like that. And he's like, here you go. So my mom was like, oh, thanks. So anyway, I used to take the maps. If you guys ever had National Geographic, there was usually always a map.
Yeah, like folded up in it or something.
Right. I papered my entire bedroom, walls, ceilings with maps from National Geographic because I was obsessed with the world and like learning about things. And so when Carmen Sandiego came out, everybody wanted me on their team because I was the geography master. Because of my National Geographic maps that used to be all over my room. Listen, I was an only child, so I found lots of ways to entertain myself.
I also was a geography nerd, and I had a parlor trick, which I would literally win bets, challenging people to name the capital of Australia because nobody ever got it. Everybody's like, Sydney? No. Melbourne? No. Canberra.
It's Canberra.
And nobody knows that except obviously Tara Setmeyer.
Yes, I always call it Cranberra because I remember it by cranberry.
Right.
So my mom used to teach me a trick, like, to associate things with different things, or like find like acronym or something to remember things in lists. So anyway, I would always think of it as Cranberra.
Funny, it's Canberra, it's Wellington in New Zealand. That's another parlor trick. And everybody's like, Auckland? I was like, no, Wellington.
Yes, that's right. That's
I know.
right.
I was like you, I was a total nerd.
I was a total nerd, but that's okay. I was a cool nerd though. I wasn't, I was the one that would go, and for the kids that were like kind of nerdy socially, I was never nerdy socially.
Yeah.
Right. But I would always go and sit with those kids, or I would always pull them in because they were smart and nerdy, but socially nerdy. And I would make sure that they weren't by themselves. Like whoever the nerdiest kid in class was that felt by themselves, I would always go and play with them or bring them in at lunchtime or do something, because I was always, I don't know.
By the way, those are the kids who grew up to be the most fascinating adults.
Yes.
Yeah, they're probably making like shit tons of money.
Oh, I
know.
So not even that, like the people in high school or middle school who were kind of the nerdy kids in retros, like obviously I'm still in touch with a lot of them just through Facebook and whatever, are living like their best lives. I love it.
Yes. Yep. It's cool.
Because they didn't peak early,
Yeah. Yeah. And like a lot of the kids I went to school with, because we all went to school together from first grade to high school, a lot of us. And if depending on, like in Paramus, it's divided by East and West. So I was from the west side of Paramus. So I went to Westbrook. I went to Stony Lane Elementary School, and then to Paramus High School. Then it merges with the East. And the only time you ever really kind of interacted younger with the East side of Paramus was like in intramural sports. I played softball. So like I said, softball started at 7, and I was on the swimming and diving teams because the Paramus pool had a little swimming and diving team thing. So I used to go, and it was right down the street from where I lived. So I used to do that. So the pool was obviously for the whole town. So it was kind of the only time you interacted with kids from the other side of town until high school. But all of us, like to this day, thanks to Facebook, one of the good things about Facebook, united a lot of us back, whenever Facebook became a thing. And our 20-year high school reunion was a blast. And I have to say, a lot of my classmates looked great. You know how sometimes you're like, our 20-year reunion, everybody was like, we all look pretty good. Yeah. And most of them had kids. And now that we're plus 30 years, because I graduated high school in 93. So now we're plus 30 years. 30-year reunion didn't really happen because, life starts lifing. And it's a little harder at 30 years. But I noticed I'm not the only one, but most of my friends all have kids and I don't. I'm looking now because it's college season. So many of my friends that I've known since I was 6 years old, sending their kids off to college, or like, this is their decision day. I'm like, oh my God, this is nuts.
Isn't it nuts? I have the same thing because I graduated in 91. So like I have a lot of friends whose kids are not just going to college, they've graduated college.
Right.
And I'm
like, this is nuts. Crazy. Actually, there are at least 3 couples that were high school sweethearts that got married.
Are they still married?
High school and still married, happily married with their kids. Yep. Which I was like, that is very cool. You don't really see much of that anymore.
Yeah, we had one, and they're still married, and their kids graduated from the same school we went to, which is so weird. Like all of that. I have friends whose kids now are graduating from the same school that we graduated from.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is just odd. Like the whole
right.
thing.
I'm in denial. My mom and I were out yesterday, and she was like, you are almost 50. I was like, please. This is weird. She goes, but you don't have any wrinkles. I'm like, well, Ma, I have good genes and I hydrate. I was like,
you don't have kids, so therefore.
That's people always ask me. They're like, how do you? And I was like, yo, I don't have kids. Like I'm not. I sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stress about. Oh my God. Like, I aged 20 years in the last 13 since I had him. But which is wonderful. But it is a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Listen, kids are a blessing. And so, but it's, you got to find some levity in it with that sometimes. But it's been pretty cool to watch, just to watch kids growing up, watching our friends get married. That's some of the upside of Facebook until it turned into the hellscape that it became. But at least it kept so many of us connected when we may not have.
Jack Scout, I had a Teddy Ruxpin.
Oh my God.
I love my Teddy Ruxpin.
Teddy Ruxpin creeped me out.
No.
So okay, Michelle, you have no standing anymore. You used to like watch some random dude Mr. Dress Up with his tickle.
But Teddy it's Tickle Trunk. And Teddy Ruxpin. Yeah, but here's the thing.
Sorry.
Okay. So if you watch the stuff with what's his name, Mark Carney from the new prime minister of Canada, when he did that thing with when he did the back and forth with Mike Myers, he was like, who are the puppets' names and Mr. Dress Up, and like that was part of the thing.
Yeah.
Like Eric McCormick, I feel, maybe I'm making this up, I don't think that I am. I feel like he like named his kid Finnegan or something. Anyways, I'm just saying, like, Canadian people love Mr. Dress Up. It's a thing. It sounds weird, but it's fine. But Teddy Ruxpin, okay, now you could put the tape in his back and it told you stories, and you could follow along in the, I had to hide Red Missing. Well, yeah, because everybody wanted it. And then there was a cord, and if you there was another thing called Grubby, and you could plug Teddy Ruxpin into Grubby, and then they would both tell you a story, and their mouths were doing. Anyways, I loved it. It was the best.
All right. Somebody, Sophia asks, who here watched Saved by the Bell? Let me tell you my Saved by the Bell story.
did.
I
Yeah.
did. She used to say I look like Lisa Turtle. When I was younger, I could see I had curly. Yeah, I would wear my hair curly and a little bit.
So I did watch Saved by the Bell, but not as a kid. I watched it in college. I would literally sit with a bottle of wine and just watch Saved by the Bell. Which now that I think
those kids all ended up kind of woof.
Yeah, but listen, I was at a bar at like a random time of day when I was at Fox. This has to be like 15 years ago with my friend Audrey. And Fox in New York, if anybody knows, New York City is located right where Broadway plays are. So there's a ton of Broadway shows.
Very true, Eileen. Very true.
So we're at some random bar and we see at the bar 2 people. That's it. The entire bar is empty. Mark Paul Gosselaar and the guy from Weeds, whose name I can't remember. And this is when Weeds was really big. Remember the show Weeds on HBO?
Oh, Hunter Parrish? No.
No, not Hunter Parrish. The guy who played her brother-in-law.
Oh, Justin.
I don't remember his name. But anyway, this is when Weeds was huge.
Yeah.
And
my old boss is his manager. Anyways, yeah, keep
somehow
going.
they come over to both of us. And we start talking. And they're not really flirting, but they're kind of like talking to us. And the guy from Weeds was clearly at that point the bigger star because Weeds was really big at the time. So I introduced myself. And then Zach Morris turns to me and goes, "Hi, I'm Mark Paul." And I was like, Mark Paul. I was trying to be really cool about it. I'm like, Mark Paul? Mark what? Meanwhile, I'm like, holy shit, I'm hanging out with Zach Morris. I mean, my son is here, and it's not a coincidence. I'm like, oh my God, I'm hanging out with Zach Morris. I was so excited, but I so didn't want to like blow it.
Right.
And I think he was kind of offended that I didn't know who he was, which of course I not only knew who he was, I know every word of every episode of Saved by the Bell, but I'm also at an age where I shouldn't be because I'm a little old for it. So yeah. Mark Paul Gosselaar was mixed race. He was?
Yeah, I found this out recently because being mixed race now is cool. And back then, you didn't really, there was only a few of us. And so it was like a thing of like who in Hollywood was of mixed race that you didn't know. Yeah.
Really? What's his other race?
It's Asian.
Yeah, this is Canadian too. Degrassi High. That's a Canadian thing.
Yeah.
One of my good friends was on the reboot. She played one of the moms.
Wasn't Drake from Degrassi?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just want to address the yes. Mm-hmm.
He was on that show?
Yes.
I never watched.
He's not as cool as he wants everybody to think he
Drake?
is.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I don't like that guy. I don't like that guy. But yeah, so oh wait, no, that's not the comment. Anyway, somebody was talking about Michelle must have watched a lot of TV because it was cold where she grew up in upstate New York, which is absolutely true. But I've been waiting for one of these weeks to do my over it on this particular thing. So I'll just say it now. I get really annoyed when people are like, they shame people for having watched TV as a kid, or they're like, no, we don't do. I mean, screens is one thing, right? With the phones and stuff. I know that's like, turning kids' brains into like scrambled eggs. But like growing up, like I watched a lot of TV and I watched a lot of movies, and like, thank God I did, because it has really informed everything that I do in my life, including what I do at Seneca. And like it fed my imagination as a kid. I mean, I watched so many movies. I watched so much like cool TV and cartoons and stuff, and I loved it. And, I actually heard Lin-Manuel Miranda talk about this, and he was like, they like to shame people who are like, oh, I put my kid in front of the TV. Like, why are your kid? He's like, no, thank God I did. He's like, because Lin-Manuel Manuel Miranda am who I am because I sat in front of the TV and I have the imagination I do.
For our generation, I'm sorry, but like my parents, and I know this is probably the case for both of you too, like my parents worked and they didn't have time to send me places on vacation.
I had a stay-at-home mom. I was very lucky, but
so I did not. I was a latchkey kid, literally in the Bronx, and like this is what I did every single day during every spring.
Oh no, I know, Eileen. I was laughing. Sorry, keep going.
Vacation, like I would do two things. One is I would turn on the Annie soundtrack and I would crank it up to like 27 and I would sing along for hours.
The Broadway cast recording or the film? The recording.
Great question. The film.
Okay. Different. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Different. You're absolutely right. But the film, because I was obsessed with the film.
Me too.
And then obsessed.
I sang The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow, tomorrow, my kindergarten graduation.
Obsessed. And then like there's nothing else to do, so I'd watch TV and I would be really pissed off because I wasn't into soap operas because I was little, and I would wait for the Charlie's Angels to come on. So there's a big problem because Charlie's Angels would come on Channel 5 at 5 p.m., but Little House on the Prairie would come on Channel 11.
Me too, Mackenzie.
Oh my God.
And I was always like undecided about whether to watch Charlie's Angels or Little House, and Little House ultimately won out because I was obsessed. When I say obsessed, I would pray to God that Michael Landon would come and discover me.
Michael Landon.
Take me to Simi Valley, put me in that stupid show. Did I tell you the story with me?
Yeah, you did.
Yes, I was obsessed with Little House.
Tell it again. You should tell it again.
Right, I'm going to tell the story again.
Michael Landon from Highway to Heaven.
Oh, please. Michael Landon from Bonanza, but then Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
I was so obsessed. So obsessed. And all I wanted to do was get discovered. I'm going to tell this story again for people who don't know. And I would watch it in reruns and syndication. And then the new season, the last season of the show came out. And I was so excited. And I turned it on. And I forgot, I think it was on NBC at like 8 o'clock on a Monday night. And they cast like their Cousin Oliver equivalent because all the original kids grew up. So they had to cast Jason Bateman.
I was going to say Jason Bateman.
Right.
Jason Bateman.
And talks about it all the time on SmartList. They make fun of him about it.
And his sister, I forgot his character's name, but his sister's name I remember very well was Cassandra. That was supposed to be me. Like I prayed every single night that was going to be me. I cried. I was devastated. Why did Michael Landon not drive down Unionport Road in the Bronx and like see this cute little girl and whisk her away from the Bronx to Simi Valley, California, at that point at Hollywood? And that little girl's name was Missy Francis. And I hated Missy Francis like I hated nobody else in the world because she stole my job and she stole my role.
Oh my God.
And then flash forward, 30 years later, how many years later, Fox News, where I was working at the time, has a new anchor named Melissa Francis. And I was like, yes.
Get out.
Her?
And I look at her, I go, oh my God. Fucking Missy Francis. Sorry, Dad. I was like, what is going on? And Melissa Francis, for those of you who remember her from CNBC, where I also overlap with her, and then she went to Fox. She's not there anymore. And she grew up, went to Harvard, and became this financial music.
Oh my God. I forgot that part.
I literally turned to her and I was like, holy shit, Melissa, you have no idea that you are my arch nemesis. Like, obviously you had no idea I existed, but you are my arch nemesis. Like, you stole my life. And poor Melissa Francis goes, really? Because I'm going to give you a draft of my autobiography that I'm about to publish. And she had the saddest, I mean, like, talk about a horrible stage like, you did not want to be Melissa Francis at the time. And she told me all these great like gossip things about, she's like, you did not want to be in Simi Valley. They would put us in these wool, like Little House dresses, and it was 2,000 degrees outside and we all passed out. It was awful. But anyway, so how hilarious that my arch nemesis, little Missy Francis, grew up to be my then friend, Melissa Francis, who's no longer.
That's funny. What are the chances of that?
I know. I was going to say, because I was telling Tara, people probably know the Broadway musical Newsies, but there was a very popular movie in the 90s called Newsies with Christian Bale and Bill Pullman. And I was obsessed with it. And I had it, like, I put it on VHS tape from one of the weekends where you get free, whatever it was. I think it was on the Disney Channel or something. Anyways, and I knew all the choreography and everything. And I remember writing a handwritten letter to Michael Eisner being like, your next musical, I would really like to be in it. I am 10 years old. I live in Watertown, New York. Please. And then so literally the month that I moved to New York, which was in like June, July 2004. A friend of a friend, Carly Gibson, who was playing Tracy Turnblad in Hairspray on Broadway at the time, she was having a birthday party downtown. And I walk in, and there I see one of like the lead dancers from the Newsies movie, and his name's Aaron Lohr. And I go, and I am, by the way, had many drinks at this point. I was 21 years old. And I walk up to him, and I was like, oh my God, you were in Newsies. And he looked at me like I had 5 heads. And he was like, yeah, that movie was like not that good. I was like, not that good. Oh my God. I was like, Newsies is the reason I wanted to do theater. You have no idea. And he was like, okay. And I totally freaked him out. But then, like 10 years later, it became a Broadway musical. So I was like, guess it wasn't so bad after all, was it?
Exactly.
But,
you had an eye for the talent then, Michelle.
See?
I had a incredibly embarrassing situation where, do you remember the band ABC, for those of you from the 80s? When Smokey sings, they had like The Look of Love, like that song. That's the look.
No.
All right. It was like a second tier 80s band that was secretly really good. And I was at my friend had some friend whose nephew was playing some concert downtown in the city. And this was also like 20 years ago. And I was also younger and therefore could hold my liquor a lot better than I can now. I don't really drink much. Michelle and I actually, for people who don't know, went out for drinks this week.
Girl, Thursday was rough.
Thursday was rough.
My God, you guys.
Thursday was rough.
Fun of them, and I was like, "You're a bunch of lightweights."
When you told me that the CNN car was coming to get you at 7, I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to be you."
You guys had 3 drinks over like 4 hours.
It was longer than that, Tara. It was like 8 hours. That's even worse. It wasn't 8 hours, but we got to that bar at 5, and we left.
Yeah,
at
9.
Yeah, I guess it was 9. Yeah, I guess
9:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out that a very astute watcher who has heard me talk about this before. Yes.
What?
Meatloaf is my godfather.
What?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wait. I know we're supposed to talk about politics. What?
I know. We will.
Necessarily, it's Saturday. We kind of.
Joe is here. Hold on. Joe is here.
Wait. Stop. Joe, you came in at the most fascinating part of. What is going on? Tara's godfather is Meatloaf?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Wait, what?
Yes. I know. Speaking of, I was talking about Jersey softball earlier today because I played, and I know that you were at your daughter's game, and it is softball time in Jersey. So
Sarah, that nonsense. Get to Meatloaf.
What is okay? All right.
I got Paradise by the Dashboard Light, like here.
Okay, so my mom, as I've mentioned, was in show business. And she did theater, and she met Meatloaf doing one of her shows. I forget which one. I think it was Hair, maybe. And they were like best friends. And so when she got pregnant with me at 20, it was only natural that she asked Meatloaf to be my godfather. Like they were besties because they were on the road together.
You were touching Meatloaf growing up?
No, because he made it. My mom quit the business when she had me. So when she had me, she moved back from New York back to Jersey. And then, she had to give up show business. There was no way she was going to raise me in that kind of chaotic environment as a single mom. And so she moved back to Jersey and moved in with my grandparents and stuff. Right. And so went back to Paramus. But so no, I mean, I think she stayed in contact with him for a little while. But I was like, little, I don't have any memory of ever meeting him. But then he blew up. And then, and then like some of my mom's friends, they made it huge, and they would always say, come out to LA, blah, 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 leave your kid with your with your parents. My mom was like, no, she wouldn't leave me. So she didn't. But yeah, so that's a random fact about me that I forget sometimes. So, thank you for you reminding me, because I have told that story in the past.
You have to ask your mom. She was in Hair, right?
Yeah.
You have to ask your mom if she was in Hair. Maybe, have I asked her this before? Maybe. If she was in Hair with Lala Brooks, because I used to sing backup for Lala Brooks, who was in, I think, the first replacement cast, of Hair on Broadway, I think.
Oh, wow.
And if you guys don't know Lala Brooks, she was the lead singer of the Crystals, which she sang to Do Run Run and Then He Kissed Me and stuff. And so I sang backup for her for like 2 or 3 years in New York.
What was her name? I'm going to text my mom right now.
Lala Brooks. Lala Brooks.
So
your mom must have good tea, Tara.
Oh my God. My mom tells stories all the time. Like, see, part of the thing is that, my mom, many know, my mom is white. She's German and Italian and stunningly beautiful. And so, but she grew up like in theater and in show business. So she was around minorities and gays and black and brown folks and like everybody. It was the 60s and 70s, and theater welcomes everyone.
That was the time, man.
Yeah.
Like that was before like every kid was being pumped through a BFA program. Like everybody was studio and like coming to New York at 17 years old. I mean, they were like smoking in dance class. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
My mom, she was an amazing tap dancer. She was a great athlete. She could also sing. Like my mom was extraordinary. She used to perform at the Steel Pier in Atlantic City for our folks. That was, like, every summer. My grandmother would be there, and my mom would tell amazing stories about Atlantic City back in those days, and like the divers who were like the real hot guys. They were like the hot shit, the high divers or whatever, and they used to jump the horse off the thing in Atlantic City, and like all the doo-wop bands and the soul bands come through and perform. And like she actually, when she was a teenager, she dated one of the stair steps. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Yeah, and Papa
you can sing.
Papa stair step. No. Michelle's the singer, not me.
I know. We have yet to hear Michelle sing. I mean, that's it. Coming guitar, you can sing.
Nah. So anyway, Papa stair step had a crush on my grandmother because my grandmother was a hot trot too. And so, but my grandmother was like, yeah, it was crazy. I mean, my mom's stories, she talks about a lot of folks like who's another good one that people would appreciate. So Michael from Good Times, he was an unbelievable singer and actor. He was called The Me Nobody Knows, which was a lot of Irene Cara. My mom knew very well when she was in that show too. Who else? Like, I don't know, like a lot of those people from back in the day. Nell Carter. Yeah. So my mom tells great stories about being on the road and like, what it was like in the theater days. As a matter of fact, when she was dating the stair step kid, she was at the Apollo Theater where they performed. And, I mean, though it was still kind of, the hippie days and love, all of that. It wasn't great if you were white dating a black. And so my mom remembers their bodyguards having to hold back some of the women from trying to get to my mom because she was like the only white woman, girl. She was like 16, 17 at the Apollo there for the show. And my mom used to be like, I don't get like, what is the deal? But yeah, believe me, my mom lived 5 lifetimes before she had me at 21. And to this day, she still tells me stories that are new.
I just want to say one last thing about this, just before we move on to other things, and we can make fun of Donald Trump here in a second. But so one of my best friends who I talked about on the show, hold on, Sarah, do anything for but she won't do it. That's funny.
Very good, Kev Cox. Very good.
So this was my friend who I talked about, was at Florida State a couple weeks ago when the shooting happened, and she runs the theater program at Florida State. So her kids, the kids in her program, are having their showcase in New York this weekend. So she was in town. I got to see her yesterday with some of our best friends, and we were just reminiscing about, our youth and going to auditions and class and stuff like that. And we were talking about how there's like this kind of, I don't know, I feel like there's this renaissance happening. This is probably not going to resonate with anybody here, but just let me have my moment. That when I first started dancing in the 80s, my dance teacher, she was like super old school, and she would teach jazz in like heels, like heel character shoes, and she smoked during class.
Oh
and
God. I think my mom's tap tainter too, Mrs. Merrill.
Yeah, she had a cigarette in her. And like, I was a child and my teacher had a cigarette coming out. But it was, I mean, at the time it was like, oh, this is great. And she used to dance with Gene Kelly's brother and all this stuff. Anyways, but like, there's this kind of moment that's happening right now in class in New York where people are starting to wear heels to jazz class again. And there's just something about it that's so amazing and awesome. And if you follow Steps or Broadway Dance or anything like that on Instagram, they film a lot of the classes now, and you get to watch people perform. It's really amazing. Go watch it. Because there's this. What's that?
You do tap? Do you tap?
Do
dance?
I?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was like that was the thing that I was.
Have you ever been to Steps on the Upper West Side, Michelle?
Yeah. Ton of times.
Yeah.
I used to take class at Steps and Broadway Dance Center when it used to be on 57th Street, but it's now on like 45th or something. But yeah, anyways, those were the days. Those were the days. So anyways,
aside real fast, Tara, by the way, the fact that your mom put everything down into the side to raise you, you are the testament to that. I know you know that, but like I know everybody who knows anything about you knows that you are the byproduct. I mean, you are inherently who you are, but your mom made an incredible sacrifice and choice, and you are the proof is in the pudding. You are the result, and it makes complete and total sense.
Thank you. Everything good in me, great in me, I get from my mom. I say that all the time, and I'm, I owe her everything.
Yes,
And my mom is the best. She's the absolute best.
Awesome.
So thank you for that, Joe.
we love Mama.
We love Mama Setmayer.
Well,
continue your story, Michelle.
what's that?
I've finished your story.
Oh no, that's it. That's just the story.
Yes.
I'm like having this moment of.
So my mom, she used to take dance lessons with Henry Latang. And she also took lessons with Debbie Allen with the dance.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Fame. Just name in the chat. Yep.
Yeah, like her manager, she had a woman manager back then. Her name was Fifi Tanzi. And she was a badass. Okay. My mom tells me stories. You know who she reminds me of from the stories? I never met her, obviously, of like Alex Borstein's character in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She was like that. Like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, she was like she would curse. That's how my mom learned to curse. She jokes. She goes, she would call up these guys, these people for our jobs or to push us for things, and she would curse them out every which way by the time, and then be like, yeah, all right, call me back by. Like she was a badass, and her daughter was my mom's friend, and she would perform. She had some talent. Here's the story with that. Her daughter was part of the discovery team that put together the Backstreet Boys.
Oh my God.
Yes, because she still went into management and stuff after her mom passed away. She tragically got like hit by a car or something, and her mother. And so she carried on kind of like in the business with that because she had a thing for managing, and she was part of Lou Pearlman's team that brought in.
Yeah, Lou Pearlman was a real.
Yeah, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah, he was a real mofo.
Like a total piece of shit. But she wasn't like, I shouldn't say part of his team. She was part of like in that area. She helped when he put out the casting call or whatever.
There's a really great documentary about him. I think it's on
Netflix.
And
there's a couple podcasts too. There's one of them she's mentioned. She's like she talks about how she helped put the original Backstreet Boys together and how fucked she got by Lou Pearlman. He completely cut her out.
Yeah, he's a terrible, he's dead.
Cut her out. And it ruined her life. She went into depression and like drug abuse, and it was really awful. And it's fucked up because he was a terrible person. And they became huge, and I'm a huge Backstreet Boys fan. Anyway.
Yeah. Well. Should we talk about? We should probably talk about politics here for a minute. I just want to play this clip. We played it on the Stakes the other night. It makes me laugh so hard. This is the clip when Terry from ABC News asks Donald Trump what he thinks or how the Declaration of Independence makes him feel. Because if you guys don't know this, Donald Trump has a replica of the Declaration of Independence in the Oval Office, and he like has it like in a curtain, like there's like a curtain for like a reveal. And
Covenant, what?
Right. I think he wants people to think it's the real one, which it is not. It is down the street at the National Archives. But yes, the look on Moran's face.
It might be Michelle, because now Marco Rubio is the National Archivist amongst his
We just talked about that on Thursday. And by the way, Michelle, National Treasure was on last night, and I thought of
was it? Well, some other time.
Marco Rubio not being in charge of the National Archives.
He just is like weird, and I don't understand it. Okay, so here's the clip. It's very funny. Okay.
Original of Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and of course you have the Declaration of Independence.
What does it mean to you?
Well, it means exactly what it says. It's a declaration. It's a declaration of unity and love and respect, and it means a lot. And it's something very special to our country.
It's the look. It's this at the end that absolutely kills me.
Respect, and it means a lot, and it's something very special to our country.
You can hear the record scratch. Like you can hear like Like what? I literally just wrote on my Substack, when it comes to intelligence, fictional Trump is like Einstein. If Einstein's theory of relativity was just whatever I say is true, believe me, and if his biggest scientific breakthrough was guessing elephant on a preschool flashcard, this guy is a fucking moron.
Yeah.
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 And a total fraud.
And a curious fucking idiot. Well,
What the fuck? Okay?
Yeah. And
I
like the
mean-
White House posted this as well last night on their
Because of course.
Instagram.
Because
No
of
way.
course they did. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, I don't know.
none of this
What do
is
you say?
normal.
No, this is
None of this is
normal.
fucking normal.
Sick. It's just so sick.
But you know what's so disrespectful? Like, he's not Catholic.
No.
he's not anything.
He's not anything. But let's start with
No.
the fact that he's not even pretending to. He pretends to be Christian. I know the church that he goes to downtown, but he's not Catholic.
No.
And to 1 billion of the world's Catholics, this office actually means something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And to,
Mhm.
like to
Yeah.
denigrate it and to mock it is absurd. And I could only imagine if Barack Hussein Obama, as they call him,
Oh my God.
ever did something like this, the
Can you
insanity
imagine?
that would be going on in the Rust Belt with some of these voters,
Of
with people
course.
in
Yeah.
Ohio, in Michigan,
Someone's
the Catholic, the Catholic voters.
Sacrilegious. It's sacrilegious to these people. Like, it's so disrespectful. And
But-
yet he can get away with this. I don't understand it.
In the very same week that he just had that like completely cult like White House like religious nonsense where the lady who speaks in tongues. I
Yeah.
mean, again, this is somebody who worships every Sunday at Our Lady of the Perpetual Mulligan. This is not a religious person. Like this guy, he couldn't cite a single passage in the Bible when asked about it. The Bible he shook.
2
when he-
Corinthians. 2
Exactly
Corinthians,
right.
Joe.
The Bible he shook when he tear gassed those protesters came out of Ivanka's purse. I mean, this is not a religious person at all in any way, shape, or
Mhm.
form. He's co-opted religion like every fucking other thing. But how you can look at that and proclaim yourself to be religious, certainly Catholic, and not find that deeply offensive, but he doesn't give a fuck. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing. He doesn't give a
This
fuck.
is where someone's saying to me, he posted it, not the White House. This is the White House's Instagram, and there it is right there.
Yes. The
Yeah.
White House
So,
official
see
account.
the White House, and there
The
it
White
is.
House is disgusting. Their account
You
is
don't believe
disgusting.
me.
We talked about that
So.
the other day.
Such a
I'll
violation.
do it bigger here. Yeah.
Yep,
See that?
there it
There it
is.
is.
Just go to the White House Instagram. You don't have to take our
Yeah.
word for it. Just go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Anyways.
This is the guy who said he's never asked for forgiveness. He went to Liberty University and talked about 2 Corinthians. I mean, it's so
His-
embarrassing.
He
Speaking of liberty, he's now moving to get rid of tax exempt status for Harvard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wait, because one day, Democrats will be in power. And if that is allowed to
I
stand,
hope so.
but by Liberty University, but by every mega church that uses their pulpits to preach hate and intolerance
And
and
conspiracy theories.
conspiracy theories, and effectively to tell their parishioners to vote a certain way, which they're not supposed to do.
Well, yeah.
Goodbye. Like
Yeah.
if you want to go down that road, Harvard will survive.
Yep.
Yes.
But
Well, especially
well,
isn't Harvard hiring a lot of attorneys that are
Close to Trump.
conservative and like friends with Kavanaugh and like all this stuff, which is like
Yeah.
very, very, very smart and
Yeah.
strategic.
Well,
But
because
also-
it's Harvard. It's Harvard. They picked the wrong ones. I
Yeah.
wore my Harvard hat today because of that. For those who don't know, I was a resident scholar a resident fellow at Harvard in 2020. I lived on campus, and I'm still connected to the Institute of Politics at the Kennedy School. And like, I'm thrilled that Harvard has decided to fight back and not acquiesce. I have my "Will Not Obey in Advance" T-shirt on today.
Mhm.
And so, like, he's messing with the wrong one. If anybody
Yeah.
can do, Harvard can, and they
Yeah.
have access to the best of the best in the world at everything. So bring it on, Trump. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Did you guys talk about what's happening in Oklahoma with the
Yeah.
20
Oh, no.
no, you missed the first 45 minutes where we were reminiscing about what we watched on TV growing up on
Oh.
PBS and cartoons, and we had
Oh,
a whole thing
shit.
about that because
Sorry.
we went down a nostalgic road, which was great and refreshing for a Saturday morning. Since we
Well, I
used to-
appreciate. I want to
when we were
That
kids.
is awesome. And I just, since you said that, just as it, because I'm sorry, it was this whole fall was so hot and we lost so badly. It
Oh,
was
no
like
problem.
it was 40-1, I think, at the end of it. But since you said that, when you brought up Debbie Allen, I just real fast want to sort of segue, and then this Oklahoma Deadeye State Superintendent Ryan Walters, and it's nonsense.
Oh my
He's
God.
mandating. But Debbie Allen, when I was a kid, I was too young to stay up to watch the like 8 o'clock shows, and so because I'm the youngest of 5. But my older siblings would watch Fame, and I would sneak down the stairs and hide around the corner of the stairs to try and see. Like, it was so inappropriate for me. I was little. It was like I could watch real people, and like that's incredible. I got to stay up for those until, of course, then they did that super microscope thing where they showed the little things on your skin, and they look like monsters, and I couldn't sleep for a month. But Fame was the show I was too young to watch, and I remember like just that show. I mean, God, who can relate to that? Like, that show?
Yeah.
It was ahead of its time, incredible talent there. And to see, you're right, it was like a very realistic depiction of Juilliard, and it was
No, it was LaGuardia. It wasn't
It was
Juilliard.
LaGuardia High School.
LaGuardia.
Yeah.
I walk by every
right.
single morning when I take my son to school, because he goes to school not far from LaGuardia.
Mhm.
Right. I
These
stand
kids,
correct.
and I
Like
see these
Amsterdam
kids
in '66 or something.
Yeah.
Or- yeah.
Great
Yeah.
cast.
That's
great
right.
acting, great
Yeah, and it
talent.
was a mixed cast, and like
And Irene Cara was on that too in the
Yes, she
beginning.
was.
Right? You
Yes,
mentioned
She
that.
sang the song. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was a great show. But yes,
one other that just quick, because people appreciate this. One other thing, when I was talking about my mom and another story, my mom was in The Godfather, the first one.
What?
My mom
Yeah.
auditioned.
We have to
She-
do like a whole like separate show just on
I
mom.
know.
What
I
is-
know.
We should have
I
her
know.
on. We should have your mom on.
She is so just a quick story here with that. So she was auditioning for the role of the sister, and so
Shit.
my mom was so pretty. They said she was too pretty for the role.
Also,
And
she
it
wasn't
was-
related to the director, and the sister was Francis Ford
Right.
Coppola's real sister. Yeah.
That is correct. That is correct.
Wow,
However,
nepotism doesn't
and
work.
also there was supposed to be like a rape scene or something, and it was like too much, and they were like, no. However, James Caan took a liking to my mom and was like, we need to cast her, give her something. I don't know, put her in as an extra. I don't care. So she got like casted as an extra in like the wedding scene or somewhere like that. So she would be on set, and James Caan would come and try to like flirt with her, or it was not James Caan.
Yeah,
James
Well, James
Yeah,
Caan was his.
yeah.
Yeah, where's the
So
Godfather?
he would come and like flirt with
He
her
played
and
his
like
brother, right?
bring
Yeah.
her stuff. Yeah, bring her stuff. And finally somebody was like, dude, she's like 16. Because my mom was 16 when she looked 25. And he
And
was
that's
like,
when Bill
"Oh,
Belichick steps in, and he's like, "Well, as a matter of fact, because
Right.
we'll circle back."
Or
right?"
Ashton
So
Kutcher, for that matter.
she said how like Coppola would like they would call her into his office and he would be eating a chicken wing. She said she remembers this. He was so gross that he'd be like chomping on chicken wings while he was talking about like the scenes or whatever. And she was just like, okay, oh my God, like, ew. So Robert Duvall, of course, and like these guys were all on set. And one time, so Robert Duvall lived in Tuxedo. You guys know Tuxedo, New York is right over the border in North Jersey. And so he would leave the set and drive home. And on the way there, Route 17 goes right through Paramus, right? You go for the bridge to Route 4 to 17 up to New York. So my mom needed a ride home, and he offered her a ride back to Paramus when she was like 16 or 17. He was a total gentleman, super nice. Like, she was like, yeah. And so
That's cool.
isn't that cool? Fast forward to 2008. I'm working on the Hill. I'm advocating for my Border Patrol agents. That whole case, people, Ramos and Compion, Google it. It was my Erin Brockovich years of when I worked on Capitol Hill advocating for these guys. And Robert Duvall was a big Republican and very pro law enforcement. So he saw me and my work with the Ramos and Compion case, reached out through the congressional office that I worked for to find me, to talk to me about how he could help these guys, and invited me to meet him at the national conference of the National Sheriff's Association conference in Indianapolis. So I flew out there because he was doing an event or something at that conference. I flew out there and met Robert Duvall, and we became very good friends.
What?
Wow.
I used to go to his house all the time. He has a beautiful farm out here in Virginia. And I would go to his house with his lovely wife, who he met tango dancing in Argentina. She's quite young, but not as, we're not talking about the same situation. She's like, anyway, she made amazing empanadas. But yes, I was buddies with Robert Duvall for years. And then like he would call me at the congressional office, and little interns or whoever answering the phone would be like, Robert Duvall is on the phone. And if people who know him know he goes by Bobby, if you're friends, it's Bobby Duvall. But Robert Duvall is on the phone for you, Tara. I was like, oh yeah, put it through. So yeah, but then we lost contact after the kind of Trump debacle. I don't think he ever went Trumper, but he's in his 90s now, and he still lives out there. But yeah, it was I was buddies with Robert Duvall for many years. And when I told him the story about my mom, he almost fell over. He was like, wow, what a full circle moment. He goes, was I I said, no, you were a perfect gentleman. He goes, okay.
Well, it's funny that you say that, Tara, that your mom was 16 or 17, because I looked up Robert Duvall just to make sure he's still with us, and he is.
Yeah.
The first question on Google about Robert Duvall is, what is the age difference between Robert Duvall and his wife? And the age difference is 41 years.
41 years. Yeah.
And, so I'm not surprised he was into your 16 or 17-year-old mom.
Yeah. He wasn't, though. He was just being a nice guy. Because he married, I forget his wife's name now. I forget his wife's name. It's just escaping me now, but she was lovely. But they met tango dancing, because he's a big tango dancer from that movie that he made years ago. And she's Argentinian. And I think they met when she was like in her 40s.
Oh,
so
yeah. He just got married.
A little different than 24. I mean, it's still significant, but.
Yeah.
I have a fairly funny sort of tangential story about a famous movie director that I would, if you guys don't mind to indulge me for 1 second. I have found the story very funny since it happened. So many years ago, my now ex-husband was working he still is in the mixology cocktail world or whatever. And his boss was having a party at his fancy house somewhere in New York State, New York State. But, and it was a big party. It looked like a food and wine spread. I was there with my kids who were very little at the time. I think my son was like 6. My daughter was probably 3. So there's this beautiful spread, this big giant long table. I'll just say that my then husband, now ex-husband, wasn't exactly behaving. So we'll just put a pin in that. But so I'm sitting at the far end of this table, away from all the fabulous, sexy, beautiful adults, with the young people like teenagers and my kids, right? So I'm like, I don't know anybody here. So this lovely young high schooler with red hair, she starts asking me questions, and we start talking, and turns out, she's in high school. And I was like, giving her unsolicited advice on how to live her life like big, and do don't worry about going straight to college, and make sure she travels, and even if it's expensive. And she's just listening to me, indulging me. I'm like basically opining about the life that I denied myself by going, straight from, whatever to having kids and all this. So, oh my God, did I go on and on and on? And she's the sweetest thing in the entire world. And I get up to get myself a drink, and my then husband says, you know who that is, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's this nice girl, and I think her
Is
name
it Bryce Dallas Howard?
No, it's
Lindsay
Martin
Lohan?
Scorsese's daughter.
Oh,
I think her name is Sophia, and she has a driver. She's been all over the world. She was at the Oscars many times. I am this old lady who lives in suburban New Jersey, was giving her unsolicited advice on living her life large. And she sat there like, oh, that's a good idea. So Europe, you suggest going to Europe? And I was like, oh, yes, travel. Meanwhile, I got to give it to her, though. She was so gracious and so sweet and so friendly. And when other people there, all the sexy, beautiful people, completely ostracized the suburban mom, she was sweet and kind. And so shout out to anybody in the world. Shout out to her. I don't know. I think her name is Sophia.
I'm glad to hear that. Doesn't he have another daughter? Do they just do like a funny thing on like a video on Instagram or TikTok or something? Where
that might be the one. That might be the one.
She's got him like doing that funny TikTok meme thing where it's like, if you have a,
Francesca.
I don't know. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Francesca. Yeah, she's a lovely human being. Just shout out, but like, she listened to me.
That's funny.
Yeah, but I was like sitting next to Martin Scorsese's daughter, and I was like,
Artie McFly in the comment, we need to start worrying about what kind of world we're going to leave for Robert Duvall.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a picture, I think, from back then with the cowboy. I have a big cowboy hat on in Indianapolis before we end the show.
So he was a Republican, though, Duvall?
Yeah, but he was like a sane Republican. He was as a matter of fact, here's another crazy thing. So everybody here watch Tiger King?
No. Well, I tried. My husband was really into it. I couldn't. It annoyed me so much I couldn't watch all of it.
Okay. So for those who watched the Tiger King, it was about that crazy guy that had the big cats and did the whole thing. And then they talked about this, like that industry. and there was another big cat like zoo thing, but it's not a zoo. It's like I forget what they're called, a reserve or whatever.
Yeah.
And so in Myrtle Beach, and it was called Tigers. And so I was at an event because Robert Duvall is a big environmentalist. And so he had this event at his house at his farm in Virginia that he brought in the exotic animal guy, Doc Antle, who ran this tigers program. And they would bring in like the little monkeys, and they had a couple tigers or whatever, trying to get people to raise money to help with conservation for the big cats, the whole thing. And my mom, she in her adult life, she was a vet tech for many years. And when they lived in the Florida Keys, she actually took care of a mountain lion that was rescued. So these people down there, they were awesome people. The wife was like a race car driver, a yachter, and had a pilot's license. They were unbelievable people, and they would sail around the world all the time every summer. And so my mom would take care of their animals, and they rescued animals, and they had a rescued mountain lion named Krista. And my mom would literally like sit in the cage and feed her by hand fish, and like lick her fingers. Like she was a huge mountain lion. She could have killed my mom at any time.
Yeah.
Anyway, but my mom is like Debbie Doolittle. That's what we call her. She's got an unbelievable, uncanny aura with animals. They love her, and that's why I love animals, and it's a whole thing. Anyway, so my mom wanted to go. I was like, my mom would love to visit and like have like baby cubs and like pet them and the whole thing with the tigers. I'm like, she would love this. So the lobbyist for the tigers conservation thing was like, oh, you should come down as my guest anytime. We'll give you a VIP tour. You don't have to pay for anything. Just come to Myrtle Beach. So I met these guys at Robert Duvall's house. Finally get to go for my mom's birthday in 2013. We're down in Myrtle Beach to go to the tigers thing and pet baby cubs and the whole thing, and look at these beautiful tigers and all of this, what they're doing. We have all these pictures of this, and I was like, man, this is so cool what they're. My mom's like, this is like my dream to like be like, I wish I could do this again if I was 30 years younger, right? Fast forward to the fucking Tiger King thing. Come to find out that they were total frauds. They were in on this whole horrible, like illegal, like killing of the cubs after they have them.
Yes.
And Doc Antle has some kind of like weird sex cult thing where he's got like multiple wives, and they're all younger, and like it's a whole thing all tied into that weirdo Tiger King thing. So we were watching this, and he's like part of it. He's in the documentary as part of the actors on this, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And yes.
Somebody put in the comments, the big cat people are weird. They are weird. And it's always,
it was so weird. So yeah, so there's the Robert Duvall connection to the Tiger King thing, and we were actually there.
Wait, Madam Power, there's a wild animal preserve in Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania. Really?
I think so. There's like they all know each other, and there's like it's because it's such a small community. And I think I remember them talking about that, because if you also remember the crazy woman that they think that the Tiger King guy, like they all accused her of killing her husband, and then he like got eaten by a tiger. It was like all crazy. It was a crazy.
No, she was accused of killing her husband.
Right, she was accused of killing her husband,
and the Tiger King tried to kill her. Is that remember?
Right. Yes, it was a whole thing, and he's in jail for that. Like that, the whole reason why he's in prison is because of all of the part of that and other things, and it's nuts. But anyway, that's kind of crazy. Like,
can we just pause for 1 second? Yeah. Australia, if anybody here is from Australia, following in the footsteps of Canada, sticking it to the worldwide MAGA movement. So congrats, Australia.
What did they do? What did I miss?
We just
elected Albanese.
They pushed back against, that's the funny thing. All these people were supposed to lose because incumbents prior to Trump were losing all over the world. Trump comes in, and all of a sudden, all these incumbent parties are winning re-election because nobody wants an effing Trumper in their capital city running their government.
Yeah,
that's the Trump effect.
So that's the second of the Five Eyes countries, right? In our Intel, the Five Eyes alliance that we have.
And of course, Britain has a normal prime minister, right? Labor finally won, so that's 3.
Yeah.
And so
I believe it's the first time in 20 something years, or a long time, that Australia is reelected their prime minister.
Also a big FU to Rupert Murdoch, by the way, who controls the media in Australia even more than he controls the media here or in England. Like he's got a death grip on Australian media. Yeah. So Listen,
Have you guys ever been to Australia? Has anybody ever been?
we just were talking about this at breakfast. My son is dying to go, dying to go. I have never been.
My husband's been, and he went to Melbourne, and he loved it. I would love to go. I've never been there. We've been to New Zealand, but never to Australia. I would love to go there.
I heard New Zealand.
When I was a kid, I was completely
Zealand.
obsessed with Australia. Like I had posters and koalas on the wall. I was gonna live there. I was gonna go there, and of course, I never made it. The furthest I've ever been in that direction was Tahiti, but yeah, never been.
No, listen, koalas are actually nasty. If you know that, they're little fuckers, man. They are not cute and cuddly. Don't. So if you ever do go, don't be like, oh, a koala. They will fuck you up. They are.
What happened to Joe's face? That she tried to pet a koala.
Yeah, they're not. But with New Zealand, I see a couple people saying go to New Zealand. New Zealand it's funny. Last night we were just watching our photos from New Zealand. We spent my husband's 40th birthday there, and it was like an epic trip. And we were going back reminiscing about how amazing New Zealand is. And it's like our second favorite place in the world next to Italy. Everyone, if you ever get a chance to go to New Zealand, it is breathtaking. It is everything you've watched on Lord of the Rings. It is New Zealand is, there's nothing that can kill you there, unlike Australia, which like everything can kill you there.
The spiders alone.
There's nothing native to New Zealand that can kill you. They have a poisonous spider that you'll get a little sick, you won't die. So that's why people like to backpack there, and they'll go and live off the land. And the people are nice. It's just a beautiful, beautiful place and great wine. That's my pitch for the Kiwis. We love them, and they have an amazing rugby team. The All Blacks. They're like the Yankees of rugby.
I feel like if you're going to go all the way to New Zealand, you might as well swing by Australia, right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. I mean, you can make it but if you go, you need to do you've got to go for at least 10 to 12 days because the travel getting there, you lose. It's a long way to go. So don't think you're going to go for a week. You've got to go for 10 days to 2 weeks to really enjoy it. We hopped over to Fiji on the way home, so we could at least check that box off on the way back because you had a long layover there on the way back. But yeah, I would love to go back to that part of the world. It's beautiful there.
My daughter is only 12 and almost 12. She does a really funny Australian accent. I can't do an Australian accent, but she's like, Mom, if you just say rise up lights. And I was like, rise up lights. And she said, you just said razor blades. See?
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Now I speak an Australian accent.
That's great.
Oh, here we go. I found it. I knew I was going to find. Here's a photo of my mom and I and Robert Duvall. We had a reunion in 2008. Wow. And you want to hear the crazy thing about where this photo was taken? This photo was taken in the living room of Eric Prince's mansion in Middleburg, Virginia.
What? We're going to have a whole, Sarah.
Yeah.
They're all coming out today. It's like Meatloaf, Robert Duvall.
Deep State. Wait a minute. Did you ever work at Comet Pizza?
I know, right? Oh my God. People. So that's why it's funny to me when anybody calls me a left-wing liberal. I'm some left-wing liberal loon. Yeah. Okay.
Eric,
you know me.
So, Kev Cox raised a good point about what happened in the UK on Thursday. I want to talk about it quickly because maybe not shockingly, but Nigel Farage, who is the proto-Trump and a fascist and a bunch of other things that are
just
awful.
In a tinier package.
Yeah, a much tinier package. And a much more clever package, I think. Who's that? Oh, was that you, Robert Duvall?
I told you
packages are probably
anyway.
But he just had an unprecedented local victory, his Reform Party, and beat both the Tories and Labour. Kev, you said that it doesn't bode well for Labour here at the next general election. I think that's going to be a while, hopefully, before you guys have one. I hope they're not going to call it early. But it is kind of troubling because I could see if the Tories were to beat Labour because the policies aren't kicking in for people in Britain yet with Labour. But Nigel Farage is kind of that's a bit nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm
surprised at that actually. But Nigel Farage and that ilk, they were responsible had a large part. Also, the Russians with the Brexit bullshit.
It's totally funded by the Russians. Nigel Farage is completely a Russian tool.
Yeah.
Beyond.
Yep.
So,
well, speaking of extremists, I think it's worth mentioning what's going on with Germany's AfD party, which if people don't know is like the rebranded Nazi party. Some people are like, they're far left, it doesn't really matter. They're extremists. They meet on the other side. So it's saying here, Politico Europe, top officials of the Donald Trump administration have lashed out at Germany after the country's domestic intelligence agency classified the far-right Alternative for Germany, AfD, aka the Nazi Party, as a proven right-wing extremist organization. Now, I will show also this tweet from Marco Rubio, which is really disturbing. He tweeted, Germany just gave its spy agency new powers to surveil the opposition. That's not democracy. It's tyranny in disguise. What is truly extremist is not the popular AfD, which just took second in the recent election, which they did, and that's alarming. But rather,
so did the Democratic Party, by the way, Marco Rubio.
Right.
Yep.
But rather the establishment's deadly open border immigration policies that the AfD opposes. Germany should reverse course. So I mean, yeah.
JD Vance said something about this too, didn't
Yes.
he?
Well, yeah, they're all up in it. I mean, and this is also the AfD party, by the way. You know, Elon Musk went there and addressed them, gave a speech to the AfD party, and said to people in this age group, right, of the four of us sitting here, you don't need to be ashamed of your family's past. Like, that is a big message that they're trying to give people, because a lot of them are the grandchildren of Nazis, and he's saying, don't be ashamed of that. Like, lean in. And so that's where this uprising of this, you know, skipped a generation extremism is bubbling back to the surface.
But can I just raise one important thing here? Never in the modern history of the United States, have we so blatantly started criticizing an ally domestic politics, right?
Yeah.
It's just not done. They're the largest country in Europe in the NATO alliance. They are, I believe, still the largest economy in Europe. They are our steadfast allies, and they have been for many decades. And the fact that you have the Secretary of State, who's now also National Security Advisor and the National Archivist, and I forgot one more job.
USAID.
Wait, he's the National Security Advisor now?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's the
Where
acting.
have I been?
He has 4 jobs right now.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Well, great. Super well.
I mean, in Quesadilla 79, he said we trash talked all the allies that didn't help us invade Iraq. We might have been critical of their foreign policy not helping us invade Iraq. We don't get involved in domestic politics like this.
Right.
Especially when their national security services choose to do something that they choose to do that doesn't affect us. And, you know, AfD is infiltrated by Russians. It is. Putin. And the fact that for some reason, the entire federal government apparatus from J.D. Vance to Marco Rubio to Elon Musk is going out of their way to praise AfD is very suspicious. We don't do this for Le Pen in France.
Right.
We don't do it for Nigel Farage in England. What is the deal with us consistently praising AfD? Like, I'd like some
We didn't
analysis.
do that with Maloney and the
Maloney
in Italy, which is the neo-fascists over there in Italy.
There are
All roads lead to Putin, right? I mean, as Nancy Pelosi infamously said, all roads lead to Putin.
But I don't understand what I'm sure somebody knows this. We don't know it yet, but I'm sure we will. What is this fascination specifically with Germany and specifically with AfD? Like, that is a totally, like, it's all out there in the open. It's the only party in the only country in Europe that they are consistently obsessed with trying to lift up. Why?
Yeah.
It's right. JD Vance went over there in election to boost when he went and insulted everyone at the Munich Security Conference and kicked out Europe. He made a stopover to go see his buddies, the AfD, to boost them before the election in Germany, and they gained some footing there. They didn't get, thank God. I think they got like 19% or something, which is the most ever though. That's bad. It's like very, very bad that they're gaining.
Well,
traction.
And with MAGA and Rubio, all these, every inquiry, every speech is a confession, is essentially with all of this too, because they're holding a mirror up to themselves. Because if we remember, I think it was when Barack Obama was still president, they were doing some kind of surveillance right into the Trump campaign because of their contacts with foreign adversaries, because it doesn't matter if they're opposition or not, or if they happen to be members of your own party. If they are a danger to national security and the democracy of the United States,
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter. Like it has to be investigated. It needs to be, surveilled in whatever way. And so what they're basically saying is, oh, don't do that. Because that's wrong and that's anti-democratic. But again, it's like, I know you are, but what am I?
Oh, yeah.
And if you all remember, it was the Australian ambassador who was having that conversation with George Papadopoulos,
Coffee
and-
boy.
right? The coffee boy bragging about Russian stuff, and he was like, "Oh, is that so?" And then was like, "Excuse me, yeah, y'all might need to know this.
Yeah,
This is what the conversation I just had, and this is bad." And that's what kicked off the whole Russian investigation.
And between Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn, I mean, the dots are like jumping off the page, screaming and slapping you in the face, folks.
Of
Like,
and Paul Manafort working for a Ukrainian Russian oligarch that was Dmitry Medvedev. Was it Medvedev or one of them?
Medvedev,
Right?
yeah.
And he was on his payroll, giving them Trump campaign information, giving it to the guy in the Russian intelligence.
Which I will always remind people that it's the Republicans who began the Steele dossier. They're the ones who started it and funded it. And it wasn't until after the fact that then, yes, it was handed off to the Democrats because there was so much compromise. There was so much investigation on Donald Trump and his decades of business and contacts with Russia. I mean, hello.
Guys, I did a whole show on this yesterday with Olga Latman and Lev Parnas on my Substack, and I would normally not tell everybody to take 90 minutes out of their life to watch anything that they don't necessarily want to watch. But I'm telling you right now, my jaw was on the floor the entire 90 minutes.
I'll have to go watch it. Is it on your YouTube as well, or just on Substack?
Yes, it's on my YouTube also.
Okay, so I'll watch it on my TV
or my Substack. It's like crazy, and it connects a lot of these things I didn't know. But he knows.
Talking about
Lev was talking about it because Lev
lived it,
and Lev was the Steve Witkoff of the first term. And Lev was like crazy, the stuff. Like, I don't even know how Lev is talking about all this stuff. I guess his attitude is, I might as well just get it all out because that way it's going to be up to like
how he's not in jail is just
he wasn't.
I know, but I'm like, still.
Oh, they're going to try to put him back. I mean, I can't. Like, the stuff that he was saying, you guys.
He didn't get a pardon or anything, did he? No, I didn't think so. I didn't think so.
But what's also concerning, since we're talking about all of this, is last night, the Trump administration asked the Supreme Court to clear the way for Musk, for Doge, to access social security systems containing all of our information.
Jesus Christ. Jesus. Well, on that note, did you guys know that there's an election happening in Texas today, May 3rd, right? Right. That Elon Musk wants to start a town.
Here we go.
Because this is the beginning of the network state stuff that we have been talking about. So it's a very small little constituency that's going to even vote on this. And most of them are
2/3.
Right. 2/3 of them are employees of SpaceX. So this is likely to pass, which means that there's going to be a small town called Star something. I'll find a screenshot. I'll put it up. But that this, and like Elon Musk will essentially be the little mayor. And this is what they're trying to do in Appalachia as well. They're trying to colonize parts like, poorer parts of the country that they can control, because then what will happen is that they can build out an economy. They will be able to function.
Starbase.
There's a road called whatever. I'm going to find it. But anyways, it's so that they can start to operate outside the jurisdiction of the United States, so that they can do like weird testing on things without anybody looking at them. And then eventually they'll have to make the argument that they are not a part of the United States at all. I mean, this is like, it's sick stuff.
It's how it starts. And also, by the way, this is also the very ugly reason why Doge going into all of our government agencies and dismantling them and neutering and decapitating our federal agencies that have any oversight over into stopping these things. That is what this is about. That's why Elon Musk and Doge doing all of this. It's about paving the way for them to do this, because if the federal government is in tatters and the agencies that normally would have put a halt to all of these things, and how many of those agencies were already investigating Elon Musk and his businesses and his bullshit and what he was doing, all of this is connected to this. And we are not people. This is where same thing with what's going on with the national park system.
Mm.
Bell was one of the first to point this out, and it's happening now. They're trying to propose another $900 million in cuts to the national park system. So they bankrupt the park system so foreign governments can come in, or Elon, whoever the fuck, buying up our parks, our national parks, and they create these network towns, these network cities, or whatever the hell. This is so nefarious. It's so much bigger than just Trump's ego or him being a psychopath. He's just a pawn in a much, much bigger.
Oh yeah.
And to bring it back to this whole Russia thing, because there's this is not, I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but this is all connected, right? Musk is on the phone with Putin 24/7.
Yeah.
Russian money has
Starlink is a link to Russia.
Yep. Russian money is funding and has funded Donald Trump throughout his entire life. He started, if you listen to this left thing, started out his career, his father started out his career building in Brooklyn, building in Queens. Can't do that without the Russian mob and the Italian mob. You could just not have to. If you're going to build anywhere around Coney Island or Brighton Beach, you need to deal with them.
Yep.
So what's just insane about this is that Steve Witkoff is now having his fourth meeting, or just had his fourth meeting with Vladimir Putin in the Kremlin. Steve Witkoff, not a elected official, who's not an appointed official, who's not Marco Rubio. And Marco Rubio has 4 jobs. Not one of them involves meeting with Vladimir Putin, meeting with the Iranians, meeting with Israelis. Steve
Which is
Witkoff,
what the Secretary of State is supposed to do.
yes, or the National Security Advisor. He is Steve Witkoff, who is a nobody on paper and is a real estate developer, but also has huge connections to Putin through people that he did business with. He's meeting with Putin all the time. If you think that they're there to talk about peace in Ukraine, you're on drugs, because what this is all about is,
I know you saw this, that he's been using a Kremlin assigned interpreter in these conversations.
not only a Kremlin side interpreter. So the way it's arrayed is Putin sitting there with 10 of his people. Witkoff comes in by himself, even without an interpreter, and turns to the interpreter and says, "Are you with us? Are you with the State Department? Or are you with them?" It was a fucking, sorry, Dad, Kremlin interpreter.
Of course,
I made
KGB.
You guys, I made some money when I was younger, like translating with visiting like the Russian. I remember like the women's field hockey team came over, and I it's a quick way to make money. It is really, really, really tough because it's really nuanced. And that was the Russian women's field hockey team. I'm not talking about like
high level diplomacy.
Right. Because it's very, you can imagine, colloquially very nuanced. You have to really know your, like you don't use the Russian translator for this stuff, but that's not even the point. The point is that all of this is interconnected. It is all about making money. The crypto stuff that Trump and Junior and all these people are starting.
Yep.
God knows who's pumping money into that, but I guarantee you, it's not about it.
The deal they just made with the Qataris to build a resort in Qatar.
And that's all we know. That's only what we know about.
That's right. That's exactly right.
This crypto thing is terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really bad.
That's all tied into the network state thing too. And El Salvador, guys, like we're getting heavy now, and we probably should wrap up at 11:40. But like, we'll talk more about this. The crypto connection to El Salvador, the networks and all of that, because it is all connected.
Yeah, this is where I want to throw this up just really quick. There's a headline from April 8th in Mother Jones. Christian Theo Bros are building a tech utopia in Appalachia. What could go wrong? Here's the next. So it says there's a name. No, there's a name for the rough concept that was it Isker? I think Isker describes the network state, an ascendant of buzzy tech movement where internet groups are beginning to explore what it might be like to start their own new countries. At first, these new countries would appear online and eventually in actual physical locations. Simply put, the Highland Rim Project is the Christian nationalist take on that idea. As new founding CEO Nate Fisher put it last year on X, nation states are not the principal form of government today. I see no reason Christian nations or peoples couldn't organize network states.
This is Gilead. This is fucking Gilead.
As with many things, the network state movement began in Silicon Valley, of course. The concept is the brainchild of investor entrepreneur Balaji Sirinaba. Sorry, I'm not even gonna try. A close friend of PayPal titan Peter Thiel, again, of course, and a
Mhm.
former partner of Andreessen Horowitz.
Another one.
Horowitz. Yep, the firm run by venture capitalist Mark Andreessen. In 2021 article on this website, he laid out his vision for a plan for people seeking to build a new utopia, or as he put it, a fresh start. Sure, there would be old-fashioned conventional ways to do this, such as forming a new country through revolution or war, but these options are not only, well, really hard, but also unpredictable. A cruise ship or somewhere in space were appealing possibilities for new countries, but both presented logistical challenges, blah, 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 blah. So they're saying, just consider the possibilities. Eventually, with this new nation, it would be so big with the economic power that other nations would be forced to recognize it as legitimate. And once that happens, conventional laws in more conventional nations could become almost irrelevant, along with the nations themselves. Why on earth would, say, a pharmaceutical company choose to spend billions of dollars and decades of testing on a new drug when they can just go to a deregulated network state and take it to the market in record time? And like, that is like, there's so many levels and layers to this, like the pronatalist stuff, like, the Maha crap, the I want to be king of the world stuff. I mean,
and the annexing of Greenland. I will continue to mention that.
Canada 51st state.
The ambassador that he implemented here, his name is Ken Howery. He went to Stanford. He is a PayPal co-founder. He is besties with Peter Thiel. He was throwing parties up for the inauguration. Like, look, all of these people, I'm telling you, Ken Howery is the Greenland guy. Look him up. Yep. He's also buddies with Kit Kennedy, who is RFK Jr.'s daughter. Like, all these people are in cahoots. I'm telling you, it's bonkers stuff. It's bonkers stuff. And it sounds crazy and it sounds like lunacy, but it's not. And they're counting on us thinking that it's lunacy, that it sounds crazy. But unfortunately, we have to pay attention to these things, unfortunately.
And we'll keep drawing attention to it because you're starting to see little bits and pieces in the media, but there has not been a real deep dive or
nobody has yet. And I'm like, what are you waiting for?
Well, because it's the fire hose of fuckery. There's so much things happening. We're about to go into a damn recession because of this dumbass.
I know.
With the top and Trump tariffs. And so now, it's a little hard to focus on getting people to understand, because most people don't even know what crypto is or what it is. You tune it out. I still don't really even get it. But
I don't get it either.
Bad, and we don't want to do this. And so, but it's hard to keep people's attention, and that's all by design.
Well, listen, I think we should just write some strongly worded emails or letters.
I think you're right.
I think that will take care of any of the problems that we have.
Yeah. And what he's doing also, by the way, which, I mean, we all scroll any social media app right now and you'll see it. The picture we talked about of the Pope, of him as the Pope.
Yeah.
What he's doing is the classic game of distract and look at the shiny outrage object over here. You're all going to chase this carrot because you have to, because you can't ignore it. But at the same time, because we have to talk about it, but at the same time, what does it do? Distracts from all the things you both.
Well, but you guys, it's more nefarious. I think it's even more nefarious. And I actually have a Substack coming out on this on Monday. But here's the problem. In the history of modern autocracy, it's never been that an autocrat comes to power when times are good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sure. Whether it's Putin, who came to power shortly after the ruble collapsed and the Russian economy was in complete disarray.
Yep.
And then he had to blow up a couple of buildings outside Moscow just for show, just to prove that the outsiders are trying to kill us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Whether it was Hitler in 1933, who really rose to power in the 20s when the Deutsche Mark was so bad.
Right. And in the aftermath of a global pandemic.
A global war that the Germans had lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So if you're wondering why Trump, and there was a quote that is going to be on Meet the Press tomorrow that I was going to run, but couldn't. But I'll just read to you. What he said. Basically, his clip was he was asked twice by Meet the Press moderator Kirsten Walker whether it would be okay in the long run if there were a recession in the short term. The president said, "Look, everything's okay." So he wants a recession. Mm-hmm. People are wondering why he's doing these tariffs when he knows. Even he knows and he sees what's bad for the economy, why they're defunding cancer research, Alzheimer's research, vaccines, why they're trying to make us poorer and sicker, and why they're jeopardizing our national security.
And the FAA and the ATC, by the way,
all of this.
factors in.
Yes. And the reason everybody's like, why would he purposely tank every element of society, whether it's healthcare or the economy or our national security or our safety, all of it. And the reason for that is he needs us to be rock bottom so that he could seize power.
Yeah.
That's the
He
Constitution.
had to break it. It wasn't broken. Actually, in fact, we were doing really well in pretty much everything. We were the envy of the world in many, many ways, especially for the last century. And so he's like, okay, well, how do we break it? And so that's why it's the meta tagline, right? It's like move fast and break stuff.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
what they're doing. They're moving very fast and breaking stuff.
And
Meanwhile,
remember,
I alone can fix it. I
Yeah.
alone.
That's right, Julie.
Chaos is the
Right.
goal. Chaos is the goal.
Which is the mantra of every authoritarian who's come to power, to Julie's point, in those
Right.
environments, because people are now desperate because they're poorer, they're sicker, they're less empowered, and they're
it's
less
the Hunger
educated.
Games.
Yeah, it's all of it.
And-
That's right. Because guess what? The people who have the billionaire class, they will survive a recession because they have money and assets and things that are recession proof. And then they come in and they buy up things when it's
And they're
cheap.
buying and they're making billion-dollar bunkers, and because they're afraid of all of us. And that's the
And
thing that always gives me a little bit of peace is I'm like, there are more of
Yes.
us.
And y'all saw that they're hoarding toilet paper and all that other shit at
Yes.
the fucking White House
That's
now.
starting. That's starting.
And I'm saying, and this is just like what happened with COVID. So, folks, you know what? I'm not going to say don't go. Don't. That's crazy. No, go and buy the toilet paper and the things
Yes.
that you need now. Go
I-
and do that.
I
Watch
feel like
them.
I'm telling
Watch
everybody that I know, these are the things, at least for me, like, listen, I had masks and Lysol wipes in my house in early February of 2020 because I was watching what was going on.
Yep.
And so, like, I'm telling you right now, batteries, AAA, AA, have as many of them in your house as you can. Get an analog satellite antenna radio, okay?
Yeah.
Because you just don't know. Get I have solar chargers for my phone. Make sure you have flashlights, water, toilet paper, non-perishable items, like, just keep
European.
them.
You can
You're
get
telling me-
antibiotics. If you can get antibiotics, I mean, honest to God.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I'm
crazy.
just saying.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, but that's that. If you don't
And
remember
then-
anything we talked about today, remember that. Be prepared. And
Yeah.
that goes back to my Boy Scouts and the garage sale that I was at today. Be prepared, people.
Yeah. And
Oh.
somebody said if you have kids, stock up on diapers. Yes. And
Yeah.
also if you have
And
pets,
formula.
get lots and lots of extra pet food in your house like that. You're going to be glad that you did that, because here's the thing is that, and I talked about this on the stakes, is, there's FlightAware where you can watch all the planes all over the world. I have been watching, there's one for vessels, right? So when you go to this website, all the little yellow dots are the cargo ships. Outside of Shanghai, there's like a bajillion ships just sitting there with no place to go. You look at the port in Los Angeles, there ain't nothing. Okay.
Nothing's coming
And
back.
so we're going to be running out of stuff here in this country in the next couple of weeks. And
Yes,
I'm
by
not
design.
and I'm not trying to like make people afraid and panic, but there's, don't panic, prepare.
All right, let me just say
And-
this about the ports real quickly, and then we're going to go. Here's
Yeah.
the deal with ports. It takes 15 to 30 days for a ship from China or other parts of Asia, but I'm talking about China specifically because they have 145% tariff on them right now,
Mhm.
to arrive at the port of Los Angeles or the port of Seattle, right? Between 15 and 30 days. We're now hitting the 30-day mark. Yesterday, in fact, was the 30-day mark of liberation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Los Angeles ports, as Michelle said, are sitting empty, as is Seattle, as is Long Beach.
Yep.
West Coast ports. It takes another 2 weeks or so for the effects to be felt in the Midwest, and then another week after that at the port of Chicago, and then eventually the eastern ports, Port of Newark,
Mhm.
Port Elizabeth, Miami, all of it, right?
Yep.
So within the next 2 to 3 weeks, the entire country
Mhm.
will be depleted of new products coming in.
Yep.
And very shortly thereafter, the store shelves are going to be empty, which is what the presidents of Target, the executive director, the CEOs, whatever they were, of Target and Walmart and Home Depot told the president at the White House 2 weeks ago or a week ago, which is why he stopped trashing Jerome Powell, which was not the point of the exercise, right? Jerome Powell is monetary policy. That's more about keeping the dollar strong.
Yeah.
This is about, but he hasn't done anything. For all that he
Mhm.
says, they're negotiating deals with everybody. Not one deal on the table yet.
No.
Mhm.
It's going to be a painful back to school for people in September. And it is going to be an incredibly painful Christmas because this stuff doesn't get ramped up. Even if he changes his mind tomorrow, doesn't mean that it will, because
There's
guess
no bouncing back.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No,
No.
supply chains, like people that again,
Yep,
they
yep.
are they are counting on the American people being ignorant about how basic economics work in this country, which unfortunately a lot of people are, and how supply chains work. You know, 99% of the shoes you wear on your feet are built are made not in the US.
yeah.
Right.
Okay? Like, so there was an economist on talking about, hey, if you like $600 Nikes, well, great, then we can build factories here and have them made in the US. But the reason why you can buy $150 Nikes or $120 Nikes or whatever is because they're manufactured overseas.
Mhm.
All of this is going away as long as the companies in the US have to pay $145 tax on the imports. That's what happens. The countries that they come from, they don't pay. The manufacturers, the small businesses,
And then they pass it on to us.
Right. Even
they
Ted
have to
Cruz
pay
fucking-
that. It's important
Yeah,
for people to know.
exactly, Joe.
They have to pay that money before the stuff gets off the ship.
Yep.
So that $10 product is now $22.45 because there's a $145 tax on it, and the small business has to pay those taxes before they can get the product off the
Right.
ship.
And
And
listen,
then
there's going to
pass it
be
on to
small
us.
businesses that aren't going to be able to
Correct. They can't
absorb
afford
that
that
cost
money.
before they, before they pass it on to a consumer. So small businesses are going to
Yeah.
go bankrupt. And, this is the kind of stuff back in November. Okay. Like, obviously we were all devastated that Donald Trump won for a million different reasons, but this is the one that I was like, buy stuff now. You need a new laptop, get it now. Whatever that you need. I saw somebody here say, get like I bought a radio that has a hand crank on it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, unfortunately, this is where we are.
And the part that
public
really,
health crisis
and the part
scares
that's, the part that's really scary is when all this goes to hell, he's
Mhm.
going to say that he needs to invade Greenland.
Mhm.
Right? He needs to take
Mhm.
Canada because we need those resources, because now they're not coming here. Well, no shit, they're not coming
And
here.
people are going to protest, and he's going to say, well, this is why I need to do martial law. And I'm telling you right now, the gun people, if there's any gun people watching this right now, if he suspends the Constitution, and if he imposes the Insurrection Act or martial law, you're not going to be able to walk into Walmart anywhere or any sort of gun place and
Right.
buy a gun.
Nope.
You are not going to have the right to do that anymore. So I say all that to say,
Happy Saturday.
don't panic, prepare. I mean, the first half of this was about tap shoes and
Yeah, we had
Meatloaf.
Mr. Rogers and Meatloaf, but the second
Yeah.
half is some real dark shit. But you know
Yeah,
what? Also, this
make a
came
run on
across.
make a run on toilet paper, guns, ammunition, and hand crank radios.
But
Yeah,
I'm gonna go plant my garden right now because
Listen, if I had a
this
yard,
black
I
thing
would
about
be.
the garden.
If I had a yard,
Yes.
absolutely. I also just want to put this up really quick. This happened while we were on air. This is my phone. National Endowment for the Arts, which then ties into NPR and PBS2, began canceling grant offers hours after President Trump proposed eliminating the agency for his budget. Now, again, the NEA, counts for a tiny bit of a percentage of the national budget, right? But it somehow pays itself in, I don't know, percentage points in the polls during elections. I don't know why it's a constant thing, but here we are. And the NEA, which is, a wonderful, great thing, because again, and I say this country, there was a time when this country produced the greatest political minds, the greatest scientists, and the greatest artists. And all of these things are equally as important. And the culture of the United States was the envy of the world, and the NEA is a big part of that. And cutting that, just like we cut other things, is going to have a ripple effect
by the
around the
way,
world for years to come.
By the way, he just proposed this budget. It has not been adopted by Congress. So the
Correct.
fact that,
Yeah.
we're all
Oh,
doing
obey in
this
advance.
preemptively- the fact that everybody's doing this preemptively is actually terrifying, because
Yep.
it just means that they don't really care what Congress does. They're just going to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Because
not
they
to
don't
get
think
into
Congress has any power to control it, because by the
And
way,
not-
Congress has castrated themselves for the last several months because
Yeah.
they keep punching themselves in the dick. Thank you,
and
Congress.
right and
Well,
and
they
not
have to have dicks to punch him in first, Joe.
well right and not
This
and
is
not
a
to
good
this
point.
we're gonna go here in a second here, but like this is why, if you follow all of us on our social medias and you follow us on our other shows and whatnot, this is why we're so pissed off at Gretchen Whitmer, because to get this one thing, again, you are obeying in advance of a dictator who's doing how much damage to all of us. How much are those jobs or whatever, this economy in this part of Michigan is going to, how good is that going to be when the country collapses a few months from now?
Yep,
Do you know what I'm
bingo.
saying?
Bingo.
Like,
When Trump comes in and says, I want to build a concentration
Right.
camp here.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
if
but
you
the
don't agree,
jobs.
right? Or if you don't agree, we're going to pull your funding for the air base
Right,
or whatever
right,
else. Like, that's
right.
why. That's why, people. Where is
Yes.
the line? There's
Right.
always a reason. You cannot negotiate with fascists.
No,
Nope.
you're either going to have jobs, but they're not going to have any public health or public education or medicine or
Right.
access to any kind of healthcare or access to safe food, safe milk, safe air, safe water, like great,
chicken,
congrats.
anything. Like, right. And this is what I played this clip on my Instagram the other day. I don't know if you've seen the movie Don't Look Up, where
Yes.
this comet is hurtling towards Earth and no one's doing anything about it, and everyone's just going, and then eventually the tech bros and whomever else make up this lie that the comet is going to have rare minerals and resources, and it's going to create jobs. And so Jennifer Lawrence's character goes home in the Midwest to see her parents.
Dad,
Oh, some Don't Look
so
Up,
glad
right?
to be home. Unlock the door.
No politics. None.
What are you talking about?
Your dad and I are for the jobs the comet will provide.
Yeah.
The divisions in this country are bad enough. We don't want more of that in our house.
And that is how I feel when I'm arguing about this.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how stupid it sounds.
It's happening everywhere. Everyone should watch Don't Look Up again now through the lens of us living through this hellscape with Donald Trump.
That's
On
that.
note, gotta go, guys. It's
Yeah.
noon. Gotta go. Love you all. Happy Saturday, and we'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you guys on Wednesday noon.
Wednesday at noon, everybody. Have a good
Bye,
weekend.
everybody.
Buy
Bye.
toilet paper.